So, in early September 1974, in the 56 Aerospace Rescue Squadron there at Korat, I was notified that I was to receive a Chinese air medal, or at least that's the way it was described to me. And the event would be held down in Bangkok at the Chinese embassy. Well, okay then. I thought that was a pretty big deal, and pretty impressed by it. So October rolls around, we get the dates all firm, and as it turns out, General Saunders, the commander of Aerospace Rescue out of Scott, was coming in country to review or to visit the rescue units and perhaps do a little bit of Christmas shopping. We know how that works. Well, the ambassador to Thailand sent an invitation to General Saunders to the awards presentation, which he said he would not be able to attend for some reason or another. Well, the ambassador fired back a message that says, "Say, if you can't attend an award ceremony for 5 of your people, then don't bother coming in country." And then General Saunders decided, hey, you know what? I might be able to make it after all. So he shows up down in Bangkok, and we all kind of mustered down to Bangkok ourselves. There was myself, Chuck Galecta, the aircraft commander of the helicopter, and 3 guys from command staff were there. Very nice award ceremony. I was very humbled by it. And then we had a fantastic state dinner, Chinese dinner. It was just fantastic. And I learned something interesting about rice wine that night. I was sitting next to the naval chief of operations, and he and his wife were telling me that rice wine no get you drunk. They lied. But they had this toast called gumbe, and I didn't realize at the time, but these tables had maybe 10 people at them, and they were tag teaming us. Gumbe, Captain Hawaka, gumbe. Not to be impolite, before the evening was over, I remember I was speaking fluent Chinese. Don't remember a word of it today, but all was well, and I was able to get out of there without embarrassing myself or the squadron or the country. At any rate, quite a neat big deal, and I really I enjoyed it. Like I said, I was very humbled by it, and years later, in retrospect, as I thought about it, I wish I had spoken up more to the United States Air Force about recognizing the guys on my crew, because flying is not an individual sport. It's a team initiative, and there's been many times when I wish I'd have said something to our awards and decks officer, who just happened to be the navigator on the flight. Said something to him about, hey, is there something that we could do to give recognition to the other crew members? But as it was, it kind of passed and went on its own way. I later was assigned to the 25th Flying Training Squadron at Vance Air Force Base as a T-38 instructor pilot. And a couple years later, after this event, probably in 1977 maybe, 3 years later, General Saunders came to Vance to be the guest speaker at one of our pilot training graduations. And he came in, and I went up and introduced myself when I saw him. And we talked about that night and about the event and shared some fond memories of it, and all was good. So after the graduation and the subsequent dining in, we're standing out in the lobby of the Officers Club. I'm standing there with Colonel Magner, our wing commander, and General Saunders, and Colonel Magner says, well, General, he says, next time you're at Vance, he says, maybe we can get you a ride in a T-38. And General Saunders says, you can do that? And Colonel Magner says, why, yeah, that's no problem at all. So General Saunders says, do you think you could take me home tomorrow in T-38? Well, now, Colonel Magner was painted into a corner. He says, why, I don't see where that'd be any problem at all. About that time, I took my drink, set it aside, was just kind of standing there, innocent looking. He said, Bob, you okay to fly tomorrow? Which was on a Saturday. I said, well, you bet I am. So he said, okay, how about a 9 o'clock takeoff? Fine. I said, yeah, that should be fine. Now, I hadn't had that much to drink that night, so I felt fine flying the next day. And so he said, well, let's plan on a 9:30 takeoff, and that'll be it. Well, I show up out at the base about 8:30, and I think, reflecting on it, at 9:30 in the morning, I would have had my 12 hours bottle to throttle, so I felt pretty good. And I didn't have a lot on board to drink before the event anyway, so I felt pretty good about it. Anyway, so I give General Saunders a briefing about flying the T-38, and we were going to put him in the front seat. And as I'm briefing him, I start to get the look of, holy crap, what did I ask for? Because as I'm talking to him about ejection scenarios and this, that, and the other, he's starting to get this look, oh crap. But anyway, so we just kind of let that slide. As it turns out, he had a T-39 coming in for him from Albuquerque, and the crew had been alerted. So they were on their way from Albuquerque, and he told his horse holder, he had a CNI captain with him, look, you can ride back to Scott on the T-39 and bring my golf clubs. Okay, fine. And that left, I later learned, that left a little bit of a sour taste in the T-39's crew's mouth. But anyway, so I get the general on board and started the engines and did all the checks. We taxi, took off. I can't remember if I let him do the takeoff or not. It would have been fine anyway. And we get up to Scott. So we get to Scott, and I said, how about I demo the first landing and you can do a touch and go, and we play around a little bit. And he said, fine. So I came in and did a touch and go, and then said, okay, it's your airplane. So he came around the final turn, and he's coming down final. Well, he starts to flare, and I said, General, I said, this is not a C5. We need to get down a little closer. So he kind of exit down a little bit. We touched down about 3,000 feet down the runway, and then did the touch and go, and then coming back around, I said, how about I do the full stop? And he says, good idea. So I did the full stop, taxi in, and he got out of the airplane, and I took his parachute then and his helmet and put it in a travel pod that I had. Okay, fine. All was going very well. So I fire the airplane up again after securing the back seat and taxi out. And at Scott, at that time, they had a back taxi about 1,200 feet, maybe 1,500, I'm not sure. So they gave me clearance to back taxi and wait for clearance. So I did. And as I'm back taxiing, I look off to my right and see the golf course. And I see these three guys out on the golf course. They're kind of looking at me. A T-38 would do that as you taxied by. It would kind of command your attention. So on a Sunday morning, not a problem. So I taxi down the end of the runway and I turn around, and waiting takeoff clearance, I just kind of put my hands on my mirrors, as I was prone to do, just sitting there kind of enjoying the morning. And I see these three guys over there. One of them's kind of nudging the other one, pointing at the airplane or pointing at me, I don't know, and says something, and I didn't pay anything about it, pay attention to it. So now I get takeoff clearance. So I run the engines up and run through the engine checks. And for some reason or another, I just happen to look over at these three bozos, and I see them standing at attention and saluting. I couldn't believe it. These three guys standing there attention. So in my best Dirty Dozen reaction, so I released brakes, lit the burners, and down the runway I went. I never liked brown nosers, I guess the best way to put this, or whatever. Why are you saluting a T-38 with a solo guy in it? Oh, I don't know what the deal was. I don't know him. I never saw him before and was hoping I'd never see him again. So I got airborne and went on my way, and why are they saluting me, so forth. So I kind of looked around, and then I looked over and I saw this placard in the front canopy I'd forgotten to take off. And it was a little placard about this big, about that big, square rectangle, had 2 stars on it. Oh, crap. So anyway, that was my flight with General Saunders. Good stuff. See ya.